Hi guys, welcome to another video. So today I want to talk about how to add a control field on a blended data source using a full outer join. Okay, it's tricky, but let's dive right into it. Okay, so let's get started. So what we want to achieve in the end is, and I had another video on this actually, like a while back actually. We have two tables, right? A Google data source and we have a meta data source, right? Dummy data basically of both. And then what I did is actually I created blended data source from those two. Okay, that's nice. So if you look at it, Sports Club Oxford is here, and we got Sports Club Oxford here, and we got a spend of 6,000, and Sports Club Oxford 9,800. So that should be 16,000 or something. Sports Club Oxford is 15,990. So as you can see, it's taking this cost and it's taking that cost and adding it up in a blended data source. Lovely, right? That's what we want. The only issue here is now we do not have a filter. So in my previous video, I just talked about blending the data, getting it here, and then using a few tricks and stuff to actually display it correctly, okay? But what I didn't talk about is adding a control field. And that's what this video is about. How can you add a control field? So if I, for example, just want to look at Oxford, please show me only Oxford, or just show me Manchester. As you can see, it doesn't do it. So it will though, once we are there. Okay, so just for really a quick recap, what did we do here for the Google data source? We went to the Google table. We went, one more thing before I actually do that. Let me just show you this. To actually apply a filter, my thinking initially was, and probably of many people, when I first did that a couple of months ago, or almost a while back actually, I tried to actually, as this is a blended data source, using for account name down here, as you can see, a function, okay, for Google source and meta source, okay. Let me just tell you what I did, and then I'll tell you how I did it, okay. So I'm using a if null function basically, which is not a big deal, and this if null function selects the account name, the respective account name, the cost, and the website, okay. So the if null function basically takes account or takes care of the account name. And then down here, I have different if null functions, okay, to display the entire data, okay. The thing is though, as I'm using an if null function here, I thought of, also using either a if null function or a coalesce function up here. I have to, right? Because I have to display all the account names. For example, Bristol is just in this table, but it's not in this table, right? So what I have to do is I have to make sure that this filter actually looks at both, right, account names from here and all of them here. When they are identical, then it's not a big deal. But if there's a account name in this one, but not in this one, then also take it into account, okay? That's why you need a coalesce function or if null function. So if I go into here, you can see I use the coalesce function for the Google source, which is this one here, and the meta source, okay, which is this one here. So, but what does that all mean, right? So isn't that confusing? I'm probably confusing you more than anything else here. I'm sorry about that. But let's dive into it and let me explain to you. So Google, we click on the table here. We go to add a field. Oops, we go to add a calculated field. We go to all fields and then we look for the Google source. We look into the formula. As you can see, this is the formula that I used. Field name, Google source. I've put it Google source so I can keep it in my mind so I know what I did, right? And then field ID is the blended source. That's an important one, blended source. And then down here, I have the account name, right? I want the account name to be displayed here and to be kind of like attributed or allocated to this blended source. Okay, let me just bear a little bit longer with me. So this is what I did for the Google side, right? And let's look into the meta. You click on the table, you go to add a field. I also go to the meta source in this case with the formula. And as you can see here, I named it meta source because that's from meta. And I use the same field ID, blended source, which is the most important step here, because if the field ID matches with the field ID from Google, then I can accumulate the account names, as you can see, the account name from the Meta, plus the account name from the Google. And then I should, in essence, be able to actually display all the fields, which also worked in the blended data source down here, right? I accumulated the account names from here, from this table, with this table here, and I can display it here. The only issue here now is it breaks when I want to filter the whole thing. Because even though I'm using a coalesce function here, or I could use if null as well, it doesn't really matter, I can't filter the respective sports club name in the blended data source, and I can't even do it here, so it's getting kind of confused all over the place. So what you have to do is you go into Google. Also pay attention to this here. We got our coalesce function here on Google source and meta source, right? That's exactly these sources that I created before, which I just showed you for Google and for Meta, right? So we can accumulate the account names together in one table. That's the prerequisite for actually getting a blended data source. What we have to do now here is we click on this table, we go to add a field, add a calculated field. So there's some work ahead, okay? So we go to Google source, but it will be clear for you once we do it, hopefully. So we go into the Google source, we go on this 3 dots here, you can see them, 3 dots. We go to hide. So we are actually hiding this dimension from this table now. Finish. We click the meta table, we're adding a field. We go to add a calculated field. We go to all fields. We look at the meta source now. We go on the 3 dots. And also here we will hide the data source, the dimension, sorry. Finished. Okay, so what happens here now? Of course, it doesn't look ideal, right? Because it breaks this filter, it breaks this blended data source, which on the other side doesn't really matter because it didn't even work before anyway, at least this one here. So now the fun part starts. So if you click on that and we look at this, you can all of a sudden see that our field ID, or our field name actually, which was Google source, and meta source, which was in here, is basically now looking quite different, right? So it's looking like T0 dot blended source underscore DB0. Some coding here. I'm not sure why it does it in this way. It's just how it is. Don't really care. So what you have to do now is you have to copy this. Okay. You have to put it in a okay, so what did I do? I took this name, I copied it, and I opened a text edit sheet and I copied it in there, okay? Maybe let me just do it actually in here so you can exactly see what I'm doing. So, okay, let me just add a text field in here. Might get a little bit messy here, but I think should be fine. So let me just add this. So this is what I copied, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do here now is I'm gonna remove this T0 part with the dot and the coalesce. Okay, and I will go down the line, and I will also remove the T0 dot blended source here and this brackets, right? So, and as we remember, this one was the Google one, and this one was the Meta one. So, because when you go back in here, you can't see now anymore that nicely actually, but it used to be the first one was the Google one, which is the DV0, and the second one is the DV1, which is the Meta. It doesn't really matter anyway, but just to make it clear, I guess. Okay, so we have these ones in here, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to copy this. We're going to go in this table. We're going to add a field again. We're going to go add a calculated field. We're going to go back here. We're going to show this field again, okay? Show this Google source again. Cool. Now we're going to go over here and we are going to add a new field, add calculated field. And what will we do here? So this is the left table. So this is the Google table. So just for me, and so I can keep it clean, I'm going to name this Google source 1. Okay. Before I named it Google source. Now it's Google source 1. Okay. And then over here, I'm now going to put in blended source DV0. Okay. And down here, I'm now going to use the Google source, which I used initially when I created this Google table, okay? I'm going to save that. Did I do it right? Yep. I'm going to save that. Okay. I'm going to go back to all fields. I'm going to add a new field, add a calculated field. I'm going to name this one here now meta source 1. I'm going to add the field ID, but this time not the field ID for the Google source, but I'm going to use the field ID for the meta source, which was exactly the same, but it had dv1 at the end. Okay. And here I'm now going to use the meta. I'm also going to use the Google source for this because we're on the Google table, right? So I'm going to use the Google source for that. I can't even access the meta source, I think, right? Because it's in this table. Yeah, okay. Google source, not Google source 1, Google source, okay? The one that I created initially here, okay? Then I'm going to save that and I'm going to finish that. And then vice versa, I'm going to go into the meta table. I'm going to go to add a field, add a calculated field. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to show the meta source again. I'm going to go back. Oops. Back too many times. Add a calculated field. And this one I'm going to name meta source 1. I'm also going to add the blended source dv. So 0 was actually the Google one here first. And I'm going to name this one here meta source. It doesn't really matter anyway, but yeah. And then I'm going to save that. I'm going to not finish it. I'm going to go back, all fields. I'm going to do add a field. I'm going to go add a calculated field. And now I'm going to add Google source 1. I'm going to add this field, but now we're going to do the first one. And I'm going to add meta source again. So as you can see, I'm using now the Google source. I'm not really doing that, but it's just for me to know. You could also name it differently if that makes more sense for you. But I just want to make sure that I know. Oh, sorry, did I do it other way around? Let me just see. I think dv0 was the Google one, right? That's how it was. Google source. Let me save that. Let me go back to the meta one. Oh, then it's fine. Okay, yeah, then it's okay. Just go in here. So the meta source is 1 and the Google source is 0. Oh yeah, okay. All good. Okay, yeah, did it right. So it should be fine. Okay, then let's finish this. And now, did we do everything? Let's refresh this. Fingers crossed it works. Okay, so we got our account name standing here now again. So this was the account name that we used to use with the coalesce function, right? So it basically came back in because we are showing the hidden source for Google and the hidden source, which that dimension that I hit, I showed it again. So it actually populated it in here again. And now, fingers crossed, if I did it correctly, we should now be able to actually see a filter here specifically, and also here actually, for specifically one club name or 5 club names, whatever we want. Let's see if it works, if I did it correctly or not. Yes. So it works fine. So I'm happy about that. So now you have the option to actually, select how many you want. 3, 4. Let's see if it populates all 4. Populates all 4. Let's also see if it populates the one that is in here, but not in here. Yeah, it does. For leads, we got leads here, but not here, but still populates it. And then we have Bristol here, which we don't have here. So let's see. It takes Bristol, doesn't add it in here, and adds it in here. Isn't that wonderful? Now you can actually use a control field to filter your data sources. You can add up to 5 in a blended data source. Also, what I didn't actually say before is, just so that's clear, this is actually a full outer join, right? So in the blended data source, I forgot about that. As you can see here, this is actually a full outer join. And the configuration, how I did it here is, basically I wouldn't have needed to add this meta source 1 and Google source 1 because I'm just pulling the data from the Google source and meta source. I just did that and didn't remove it anymore. So if I go save and save, that should be fine as well. Okay, renamed it. Let's see if it still works. Or if I mixed it up now. No, all good. Okay, 3. Let's do 3. Okay, it does it. So as you can see, if you go in here, this is actually a full auto join. We're using account name as a join key, the Google source, which is the original Google source, and the original meta source as a join key as well. Saving that. Okay, I also added in here. We don't need that. Can remove that. Save that. And this should still display the results correctly. Let me just see. If I could click it, 1, 2, 3. Let's do that. And as we can hopefully see, there are 3 in there. So wonderful, right? So this is how you solve this problem. I hope it was good and beneficial for you. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel. It helps me. It gets the word out there. We shouldn't struggle with that, right? Nobody should struggle with that. Also, that you know, I am supporting or doing these videos for marketers, digital marketers, for analysts, guys that love to play with data. I do videos on Looker Studio, Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, on ads as well, on strategy, and so on and so on. Canva as well a little bit. So yeah, whatever you want to search for, put it, or you're looking for, put it in the comments if you like, and I will try to make another video. This video specifically here was for, what was his name? Tanmoy, I think was his name. Hope you like it. And yeah, keep watching, keep learning.